Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Chat with Dan here for today on the show. I mean, what can I say? You know, this is already the best way to start up a badass Wednesday because she's back. The incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary, the one and only Janae. Janae, how are you today?
Wow, what a title and an introduction. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I mean, what better way to have an incredible, super badass Wednesday than to be chatting again with someone as badass as you? You know what I mean?
I'm excited
Absolutely.
to have this conversation and to get started. This will be fun. It's been too long since we've chatted.
Too long for sure, but I love it. This is gonna be epic. Now, if you are new to the channel, you know the drill. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. But also in the description below, you're gonna find all of Janae's social media. Let's follow her. Let's find out why she's super badass. I mean, I know, but those who are listening might be wondering why. So you might be discovering at this conversation anyway. So right, let's make it happen. So I want to start this epic conversation by throwing out the first question, which is, when you hear the phrase overnight success, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Overnight success. Ah, this word, this phrase, it kind of gives me like I don't want to say the ick, but I just feel like it's a term that's kind of an overpopularized phrase describing like the public's perception of a sudden rise to fame that's actually the result of years of unseen hard work, practice, rehearsal, tons of money spent, classes, a lot of failures along the way, all of those things. So it kind of just undermines what the actor's gone through and the work they've put in. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've read the book by Tom Clancy, Dead or Alive, but in his novel, he said an overnight success is 10 years in the making, which is so true. I just think the term invalidates the work ethic of the artist. It feels like it almost attributes all of the credit, the hard work to, the production company or the film or whatever it was that made them discoverable. Like it was all and only because of this film or these certain people that made it happen, when really it was just the talented person, and it really, what it did was just reveal what's been there the whole time all along. So it's really just made them discoverable. And I think we need to kind of replace that terminology with the word discovered talent, because that, I feel like, refers to the performer, and it gives credit to, you know, kind of where it's due.
Do you think this is, this fake idea, right? Yeah. Do you think this is caused due to the media because it shows only the glamour, like the easy, like like the easy things, and maybe that's why some people might thinking that you can be uh, a star overnight.
Yeah, well, when it comes to media, I feel like they only share what sells. And unfortunately, the ugly, nitty gritty truth of being a professional working actor doesn't always sell because it's not always sunshine and rainbows. I mean, statistically, studies show that 2% of actors make a living from the profession alone. So that means 98% of actors have one or more side jobs, multiple streams of income, constantly on the grind, constantly on the go. And I don't think that's very glamorous for the media to share. They don't really think it sells to kind of show, hey, look at this actor. They worked four different jobs in one weekend just to pay for their groceries, let alone, the headshots and all of the other expenses that we have to incur. And I mean, sure, the media will show kind of like the aftermath war stories of like the top 2% of actors that have kind of made it in the more public eye, that have been discovered. And they love to share kind of like their 10 to 15-year hard, long journey and how they finally arrived. And, it's always very beautiful and inspiring and should be shared. But they love to just kind of show it once we know that we have that happy ending. They don't want to show actors that don't really have that end result yet in their eyes, because that doesn't sell.
Totally. It's so interesting because it happens that suddenly we see an actor in a A-list film, and then everything everyone starts saying like, oh, they came overnight, and then when it only takes a little bit to check on their IMDb, and then you're like, no, they've been working for 15, 20 years, so I get it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what people see and what they're being shown, because no one's being shown the 98% of us actors who, aren't necessarily just in the public eye. Um, Not that all of us want to be, but yeah.
But in an ideal world, I would love if they would also show you kind of the raw side, so then you can be a little bit more prepared on what's coming. You know what I mean? Because it happens that
Yeah.
because only you see the like the good things, right? Like the like all of that. It can
Yeah.
happen that you get like this misconception, which I'm sure that it happens most of the times.
Hmm.
And once you enter a little bit to this world, you're like, oh shit, this is not what I thought to. And it can get you to stressful moments, and like all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know that's never gonna happen, but yet again, I mean, in an ideal world, that could help a lot to people be like, okay, so this is what I'm about to jump in. Do I really
Hmm.
want this? Or maybe I could find something else, and I could use my time instead on something that I feel that it could be like a better fit for me, let's say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I feel like there's definitely like a myth behind
Hmm.
the quick success. And I feel like society is kind of obsessed with this idea of like the glamorous, quick, it can happen to you overnight, any second now. And it does sound so nice and it sounds so appealing. And when I graduated college, it sounded really nice to me. All of the stuff that's being advertised to young emerging artists is the quick tips of like 10 ways that you can earn $10,000 a week, or take this one class and you'll be shown in front of a panel of 10 New York and LA casting directors, and it costs like $5,000 to attend. And there is just a lot of like, no one wants to say, hey, the honest truth is this acting thing might take 10 to 25 years or longer. It could take 40 years. It could take your whole life. Because people are really destination oriented. They're not very journey people. The journey takes very long. And people want the result without putting in all of the hard work, because the hard work doesn't feel good. And I think it's kind of a societal issue that we've been facing more and more, with just like the instant noodles, microwave meals. You can order anything and it'll be delivered to your door right away. You want an answer instead of going to the library and doing extensive research. It's like, oh, let me ask Chat GPT. It's like right now. So it's very hard to kind of be different and remove yourself and break out of that mindset and be like, hold on. In the name of quick and instant, you sacrifice quality and you sacrifice lessons and things that you learn along the way that make you who you are, because this life is the journey. Once we reach the destination, sometimes it's not always what we thought it was. I mean, you can look at many interviews with different celebrities over the years who have talked about this very thing. you know um Jim Carrey said something about like, I hope everyone gets rich and famous and gets everything that they've ever wanted so they can realize it's not what they wanted. Butchering his quote, but NF, the rap artist, in one of his interludes in one of his albums, he was being really raw and vulnerable and was like, I achieved everything I ever wanted, and this is the most depressed I've ever been. And so those are kind of the stories that really stand out to me as an actor, and that kind of like scares me in a good way, because I'm like, okay, so if the destination is not fulfilling, if the destination is not enough or what we think we want, then it must be the journey. And how do I find fulfillment and joy in that?
Now, in your opinion, does the myth of quick success do more harm than good for emerging artists?
More harm than good. Um, again, I think it depends on your upbringing, your coaches, your teachers, who you are as a person. It's kind of individual based, because depending on what happens to who it happens to, it can be really great to have that quick success. But for the most part, I've personally, at least in my life, have seen more harm than good. And I've heard stories. I've been on set. I've talked with other actors who have opened up to me about, man, like, I did this or I did this and it was uncomfortable. And I, got that quick success and it was just overwhelming and it was too much. And I sacrificed my time and I sacrificed my personal life and I sacrificed my boundaries. And so, yeah, I think it does, at least for what I've seen in my personal experiences, more harm. And I think it's largely due to society pushing that idea again of just that quick success.
Can you share a moment where it looked like you were succeeding on the outside, but internally you were struggling?
I think all day, every day. No, I mean, I think every actor, if we're being honest, is always struggling in one way or another. It comes and goes in waves. We're constantly in a state of auditioning, constantly when we're on set on a job, we're still looking for the next job. But when we're consistently working, those periods of time feel amazing and it's incredible and exciting. But the periods of time where weeks, months have gone by and we haven't booked anything, I think we all feel the heaviness of that. We're all artists and we're all very passionate about this. This literally brings us so much life and joy. And when it's not there, it's kind of like you feel the weight of it. So I think it's important to find other creative outlets in your personal life instead of relying so much on that job because I think it shows up a lot in self-tape auditions or in-person auditions when you have that kind of underlying desperation of like I have to get this job, I have to get this job, like I haven't been on a job in so long. It kind of shows through in your self-tape whether you want it to or not because it's almost this like begging desperation. But if you're kind of approaching things like, you know what, if I book it, I book it. If not, it's not meant for me. And just going at jobs with kind of the perspective of, I'm here for the production. I'm here to assist in any way I can. And I'm just a small puzzle piece to this beautiful story that they're making. And if I fit, then I fit and it makes the picture complete and beautiful. But if I don't fit, then someone else will and they'll have that opportunity to make it beautiful and exciting. So I think perspective has really helped me a lot along the way. I really have to talk myself out of negative thoughts just as much or more as they come. I have to remind myself who I am, why I'm doing this, because it's a mental game and it's a mental toughness and resilience that you have to build up.
Mhm. I know you mentioned resilience. Like, what role do you think it plays for a long creative career?
It's so necessary for something that's so long, because you have to build that thick skin and that constant bouncing back because you're going to be auditioning 100 million times. You're going to be pushing forward and getting pushed back, and it's kind of like climbing the ladder. You're going to keep slipping, but you have to keep going. But I think for me personally, resilience I noticed has made me very grateful and humble for the opportunities that I do receive. You really appreciate the wins, and but resilience kind of makes you adaptable, like a chameleon. You have to have so much flexibility on set. Things are constantly changing. And I think when you've been in this for, a long time, you kind of build up that adaptability really quickly. And you get used to that constant rejection. And you take it instead of as like a failure, you take it as a learning opportunity because every character that you play, even if it's in an audition, you learn something from that character because you've studied something that's different from yourself, whether in a literal way or like an emotional way, but you learn more about you through playing other characters. So, you know, I'm all for the journey.
There you go. And how do you personally define success now versus when you first started?
Well, when I first started, I think I defined success as like oh, I went from a background artist to a stand-in role, or I went from a supporting role to a lead role, or I went from, a $100,000 budget film to $1 million budget film. And it was kind of these vanity metrics of success. It was just numbers, and it wasn't actually how it was very shallow and very it doesn't last as long as the success that I see now, because success now for me is, did I improve as in a person? Did I improve as an artist? And did I affect someone in any way by them seeing my story? From them watching my film, did I conjure an emotion, whether it's happiness, sadness, anger? Did somebody feel something by watching my performance? And if so, that's success. And that's enough. And that will always beat out any trophy or paycheck.
There you go. I start to discover again why you're badass. You can read this vibe like, I remember now. There you go. And
Yeah.
if you could give advice to someone just starting out who feels like they are behind, what would you say to them?
Behind. There's no timeline. I think we as a society place goals and expectations on others with zero consideration to the individual. We're all our own unique people with different brains, different abilities, different bodies, different physical or emotional limitations. And therefore, this journey will look different for everyone, and it should look different for everyone. And I think we need to stop comparing, and stop placing timelines and expectations on ourselves based on what we see other people doing. So I would just say, know yourself, and know yourself well enough to travel your own journey, your own way, at your own pace.
There you go. Yeah, I do think the same. If you set yourself like a timeline, especially in a creative career, it
Yeah.
might not work, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah.
then you'll be highly disappointed. But, if you don't have any expectations and you're just along for the journey, and you're going to learn so much along the way. And, I think going back to like the quick success, if I did receive that quick success, I wouldn't have met the people that I've met along this journey. I wouldn't have been a part of so many amazing, incredible productions or short films, or I would have missed out on a lot. And the things I'm doing now with the people I've met is just, the journey is just so fulfilling. And it's taken me a long time to realize that and to get to that. And I still have to remind myself of that. I'm not, perfectly like, I'm completely content and happy, because I do get that itch sometimes. And I never inevitably always end up feeling like I'm behind in some way. And I'm like, wait, no, I'm not. I'm not behind. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I like it. I do think that if you're going to set yourself some expectations, make them honest or make them real. Don't go over what you can actually do. Just be yourself, have some expectations, sure, have and work a little bit to it. It's gonna feel much better if you set yourself some really high expectations that clearly are impossible because it's not just the way it is. Instead of have some regular decent ones that you are able to perform. And with that, that can give you like the strength and the motivation to keep moving forward, right? Because as you were saying, if you set yourself, for example, like this timeline, you don't get it, you feel unmotivated, you don't want to do it, right? You feel like I knew it, things like that. So I do think, or at least something that just came to my mind, is to start working on that instead. To set yourself some decent expectations. That you are able to do, and with that, trust me, I mean, I do think that it's gonna feel much better, and you're gonna be able to keep performing and keep doing what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And be careful what you consume on social media. Social media is a great thing. It's a great tool. It's great for networking and, getting, boosted on by your fellow peers. But it does have a downside of sometimes only showing the good and only showing the end result. And, I've had people in my life say, "Wow, I didn't know that you were struggling. Wow, I didn't know that you felt this way, or you're feeling discouraged and feeling disappointed, like it always looks like you're constantly working on something. When in reality, I'm like, oh my gosh, I took this one class and I messed up my monologue. Can I even act? I don't know. Like maybe I should give up. um, yeah.
Totally. All right. Now, switch it to our next section. Quick speed round question. Yes, no, or pass. Super simple. Gonna ask you a couple of questions in which you can only answer yes, no, or pass. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So, have you ever been called an overnight success?
No.
Did you have to work side jobs while building your career?
Yes.
Was there a time you thought about giving up before you got your first break, let's say?
No.
Do you believe most overnight successes are actually years in the making?
Yes.
Has a small failure ever ended up being a huge blessing in disguise?
Yes.
Have you ever had to reinvent yourself creatively to stay in the game?
No.
Do you think luck plays a bigger role than people admit?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Have you ever surprised yourself by how much you grew from a tough moment?
Yes.
Do you think hard work alone is enough for success?
No.
Okay. And would you still choose this career path even knowing how hard it really is?
Yes.
Fair enough. I'll take it. And before we wrap up, tell me, when you look back at your journey, what moment taught you that success isn't a destination, but a daily decision?
Yeah, I think the slow progression of being in this industry for as long as I have has taught me to zoom out and look at the big picture. Kind of going back to all of these celebrities and people, I think the more and more I kind of thought about it, and the more and more I listened to different podcasts and different people talking about money doesn't buy happiness, or, I achieved all of this success and it wasn't enough. I think all of that really inspired me and stuck with me and kind of shifted my mindset so that I would go into this thing knowing that, hey, if I want to pursue this, I have to love it enough and I have to make sure that I'm in it for the right reasons. Because if I'm not in it for the right reason, then it can be detrimental when those certain expectations or things don't align in the way that you anticipate. So I'm like, keep my eyes on the goal, which is just love what you do and make sure that the reason you love what you do is true to who you are, because no amount of money, fame, success, or awards will ever be able to give you that. And I think in this career, the things that do bring me joy and fulfillment, I've noticed, are the people, the memories, and the characters I play and what they've so generously given back to me.
Yeah, I like it for sure. More badass. What can I say? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do think at the end, just take your time to it. Everything is gonna come and at the right time. And it's so interesting because I used to think that that it would be possible for you to become successful in I don't know, in a span of 3, 4 months, right? 6 months.
Right.
But along the way, you start to discover, and I think that comes with growing up as well. That that's not going to happen, and that's okay. I think like the more you understand that it's not going to happen,
Yeah.
and you need to work, and instead of dreaming or instead of working on something that is going to be hard, work on yourself first, and then eventually the like great things are going to happen. Because for example, every time I have like these days, right, in which the podcast, in which I'm like, you know what, F it, I'm gonna quit. Screw it, I'm
Mhm.
gonna do something else, like whatever. Eventually something happens. Like, not gonna
Yeah.
lie, every single time I'm like with this mindset that I'm gonna quit, boom, something
Yeah.
happens. Like something shows me out there that you know what, maybe it's just about keep working, take your time if you feel stressed, and then eventually great things are gonna happen. And if it takes you 10, 15, 20 years, then that was meant to be. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do think that along the way you can actually feel successful of all of the things you have accomplished because you actually have achieved more that back when you started in which you had nothing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
And I think success to the media and success to society does look very different than what success actually is. Kind of going back to that point either. But, even when I meet random people who are not in the industry and they find out I'm an actor, their first question is always, what have I seen you in? Or, oh, have you been in anything big? And it kind of like, it makes it feel that like, unless you're an A-list celebrity making millions of dollars living in LA, then you must not be a real actor. And I think that narrative needs to die
Yeah.
because, that's the 2% of actors. And the rest of us are consistently working and, getting paid to be on set. And I used to take it to heart, but then I reminded myself, well, they don't have ill intent. They just don't know because the media only shows the success and the glamour and the war stories and the underdog stories because that sells and that's what society is consuming. I was listening to our new SAG president, Sean Astin, and he quoted a little bit from Lord of the Rings. I love it so much. I don't know the quote verbatim, but he was kind of inspiring the members to keep going and keep pushing forward because there is still good in this world. Sometimes working in this field, being around a lot of corporate greed, a lot, and being around these big studios that are pumping out what feels like a new movie once a week almost. And they have this new thing called second screen viewing, which they're altering the plot line to be so basic that people can follow along while doom scrolling on their phone at the same time. So it's just kind of feels like it's money over quality, again, that the quickness over quality. And I feel like they're just serving us up these microwavable movies at the price of a restaurant steak dinner. But remembering that is still good in this world. There is still, we have for a lot of people, not all actors, but we have SAG after, we have the union, we have people fighting for us and fighting for our rights. And it's nice to know that there are still people that are doing this because they love it and because they're passionate and they're doing this for people. And I think the society is consuming too much too quickly. But I think we're kind of reaching a breaking point where people are starting to notice, this is quantity over quality. This isn't movie making like it used to be. And, don't even get me started on the AI element. But I really hope that we kind of get back to the heart of what we do because at the end of the day, acting and, specifically in the film industry, it should be about the story and wanting to share these characters and the with the world. So hopefully we get back to more of that. It exists, but it's just not shown on the media a lot.
Yeah. I do think that it's all about timing. I do think eventually everything will come back to its place. I have
Yeah.
discovered that the way that we learn is by doing mistakes, and by
Yeah. Yeah.
causing chaos. I do.
Hmm.
I mean, I agree with you with everything, like with the whole AI stuff. The fact that suddenly we start to um, yeah, that this big company started to release films, but like crazy. Then it was the other one after the other one after the other one, and just and just more quantity, like instead of
Right.
actually good quality, you
Yeah.
know. But the good thing is that every now and then someone comes and releases something really good
Hmm.
quality. People love it, and that kind of shows you that hey, this is the way that we should be doing stuff. And I'm glad that we have people like that that shows us that there's people out there who are pursuing quality, because
Yeah.
that's what we want. We don't want to spend we don't want to spend money to go to the films to see a film to see something that it's gonna be meh. You know what I mean? You want to see a good
Right.
film, right? You want to see something that when
Yeah.
you leave the cinema, you will be talking about it like, oh, this was good. Like chatting with your friends about it. Like, oh, do you remember like this scene? Yeah, it was so cool. Or the characters, things like that. Instead of watching something which you're like, meh. You know what I mean? Because you can do that
Right.
watching Netflix, for example, or like streaming platform, and not having to spend your money to go to the cinema and have like all this experience wasted on something that is not good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I do think that eventually things will come back to its place. I mean, it's true. Right now, the world we're living in, it's chaotic, and there's days in which I'm like, oh, we're so doomed now.
Right.
But I think it's all about keep working on ourselves, keep being positive, keep being surrounded with the right people.
Yeah.
And eventually I do think that we're gonna reach to a point in which we can stop using AI or stop releasing crappy stuff and actually focusing on really cool content, which we have seen it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. There's
pretty cool.
still those people out there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So
Mm.
yeah. And you know what? My last question here. So we can all enjoy and relax after an epic chat. So what do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
Best title. um, Let me think. Maybe something like why overnight success is a myth, an honest conversation about the real acting journey. um, or like why the journey matters more than the destination.
Oh, I like that one. That has like a punchline to it. Yeah. Sounds good to
Yeah.
me. And I mean, what can I say? I love the fact that you are still doing this, that you're still pursuing your dream here. That takes guts, but you're making it happen. That's super cool. And as I said before, it's sometimes we get so busy with everything, but it takes only 1 second to stop and to realize all the hard work you have done back when you started with you had nothing, and then you actually feel good because you're like, hey, I have achieved a lot of stuff. I actually been moving. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
keep doing what you do. As I said here, I do think that it's people like you in this world who shows us that dreams can come true. It's super positive and it's amazing. And I do think that positivity is something we need right now in this crazy world we are living in. So keep doing what you do, keep inspiring, keep motivating because you're doing a hell of a job. So
Thank you.
there you go. I do want to thank also those who stayed the whole episode. Now, by this point, as I was saying, come on, you should know why Janae's super badass. Let's follow her. Hashtag Team Janae. Let's share some love. And again, thank you for making this happen. Keep shining, keep rocking, keep kicking ass, keep doing what you do. And I'll definitely be seeing you in the next one.